Hi guys, you're welcome back to my channel. Okay, so this is going to be a continuation video. All right, so in our previous video we drafted the pattern for this shirt dress. Okay, now in this video we're going to proceed to draft the sleeve, okay, and the cuff. Then we'll go ahead and transfer all our patterns to fabric and we will sew all of them. All right, so let's jump right into the video. So we'll begin by drafting a basic long sleeve, and the total sleeve length is 25 inches. Now the cuff length is 3.5 inches. So if you subtract the cuff length from the total sleeve length, we'll be left with 21.5 inches. So I'll proceed to make a mark on 21.5 inches and I'll add ½ inch for joining to the cuff. Okay, so that makes it 22 inches. Now I'll make this mark and I'll connect it using a straight line. Okay, and here we have it. Now let's proceed to determine the cap height. So to get your cap height, you're simply going to divide your bust round by 12 and you add 1. So her bust round is 43, divided by 12 plus 1 will give us 4.5 inches. So I'll proceed to mark the 4.5 inches and I'll connect it using a straight line. Alright, and here we have it. Now let's proceed to mark the cap width. So to get your cap width, you're simply going to divide your bust round by 6 and you will add 1.5 inches. Now remember that we have ease on the shirt, so we're going to add that ease to the bust round. Now instead of working with a bust round of 43, so I'll go ahead and multiply my ease by 4 and add it to her bust round. So, and I'll divide it by 6 and add 1.5 and that will give me 9.1 inches. Now at the sleeve head, you go ahead and divide that measurement by 4, okay, and you make a mark there. Now from the second quarter of that measurement, I will come down by 1 inch. Alright, so I'll come down by 1 inch at the midpoint of the sleeve head and we're connecting from the first quarter to the 1 inch, okay, all the way to the cap width. So this is still the normal basic sleeve pattern. All right, and here we have it. Now let's move over to the round sleeve. So her round sleeve is 9 inches and 9 inches divided by 2 will give us 4.5 inches. Now you need to add 1 inch for your pleat allowance and 1 inch as your sewing allowance. So altogether we have 6.5 inches. Now we also need to mark her elbow length. So her elbow length is 13 inches. Now I'll place my tape from the starting point and I'll make a mark at 13 inches. I'll also repeat it on the side. All right, and I'll connect it using a straight line. Then we'll proceed to mark her round elbow, which is also 13 inches. So you simply divide your round elbow measurement by 2 and you're adding 1 inch sewing allowance. All right, and we'll proceed to connect. So to connect, we will start by connecting from the round sleeve to the elbow. Okay, so I'll make this first connection using a straight line. Then I'll come in with a slight curve and we're going to connect from the cap width to the elbow length. All right, you can use a straight line if you want, but I'm making use of a slight curve. So I'll go ahead and highlight the mark. All right, and we'll proceed. Now you need to blend all sharp points. Okay, so after I'm done connecting it using a straight line, I will still blend that point. All right, so that it looks very even. And here we have it. Our sleeve is ready. Now I'll go ahead and just add my ½ inch joining allowance on the cap head. All right, on the sleeve head, sorry. Okay, so I'll just proceed and add my ½ inch and I'm done doing that. Now I'll proceed to cut out the sleeve. And our sleeve is ready. Now we'll proceed to draft the cuff. So I'll keep the sleeve, the long sleeve aside, and I'll come in with the pattern for the cuff. Here we have it. Now the round sleeve that we're working with is 9 inches. So you will need to divide your round sleeve by 2 and you add your ½ inch allowance for the button, okay, and another ½ inch for the sewing allowance. So altogether what we have is 5.5 inches. Round sleeve divided by 2 plus ½ inch is for the button and ½ inch sewing allowance. All right, now I'll go ahead and mark my cuff, the height of the cuff, okay. And remember, from our initial calculation, the cuff length is 3.5 inches. Now we'll proceed to add ½ inch allowance for joining to the main sleeve. So altogether we're marking 4 inches. All right, 3.5 inches as the cuff length and ½ inch for joining to the sleeve. Now I'll proceed to connect it, and here we have it. So I'll also go ahead and repeat the cuff height, okay, and the width, so that I can get an even rectangle. All right, and here we have it. Now I'll go ahead and put the unfold sign. All right, so we'll be cutting that part on fold, okay. Now we also need to label, all right, but we'll do that after we have cut out. So I'll just proceed to cut out the cuff. Okay, so let's label. Now here is the length of the cuff. All right, remember the length is 3.5 plus ½ inch for joining, and the width of the cuff is 5.5 inches. All right, so the labeling is very important so that we don't place the length on the width side. Okay, so we'll transfer all our patterns to fabric, and here we have it. Now here is the front. So while cutting out your front pattern on fabric, you need to open up the button allowance, which I did. All right, now let's look at the back. So I cut the back pattern on fold. All right, now I added ½ inch on the yoke side, okay, on the chest line for joining to the yoke. Now here's the yoke, and I cut 2 of it, okay. I also cut the yoke on fold. All right, so we'll look at the joining process much later. Now let's look at the sleeve. So I have 2 sleeves here pinned together. All right, remember that all our allowances were included to the pattern while we were drafting. Now here's the cuff. So I cut 2 of it, and so I folded it this way and I cut out. All right, now let's look at the joining process. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and iron down my interfacing on the cuff. So I'll iron down my interfacing on it before I will turn it. All right, now let's take a look at the sleeve. So you first need to notch the midpoint at the round sleeve, okay, and at the sleeve head. So you need to indicate the midpoint of the sleeve. Now I'll proceed to take off the pins, and I'm done with that. Okay, then we need to spread the sleeve, okay, before we will proceed. So I'm simply taking off my pins. Now for this kind of fabric, you will need to indicate the wrong side, all right, because that's where we'll be working on next. So I'll proceed to just mark the wrong side. Now I went ahead to place the sleeves, okay. The right sides are facing each other, so what we have at the top is the wrong side of the sleeve. All right, now I first indicated the midpoint. You remember the notch that we had? Now from that midpoint to the side of the sleeve, you need to get the midpoint. All right, so just watch what I'm doing. Now at this midpoint, we'll go inwards by 3.5 inches. Okay, so I'll make a mark at the 3.5 inches there, and we'll proceed to cut it. So I'll cut up till the 3.5 inches mark. All right, now at that point you need to give it a slight extra notch, just a little extra notch. All right, and that's it. Remember that we just cut on the wrong side, okay, of the sleeve. All right, and that's it for the sleeve for now. Now I cut out this long strip, okay, is measuring 2 inches, all right, wide open, but on fold is 1 inch. So I'm going to use this to pipe the sleeve, okay. So this tiny slit that we just made on the sleeve, I'll use this 1 inch fabric to pipe it. So I'll pipe the 2 of them before I fix the the cuff. Now I went ahead to mark just to give our shirt a little shaping, okay, at the hem. So I'll just trim that off. I didn't want to do this behind the camera. All right, so that's the shaping of the shirt, and I'll proceed to take off my pins. All right, so here is the back now. And like I said earlier, you will need to indicate the wrong side of this fabric because the right side and the wrong side is the same. Now, you need to notch the midpoint, okay, of the chest line before you attach your yoke. So here are the yokes. Remember I told us that we are cutting 2 of the yoke, all right? Now it's time for us to join the yoke. So I'll first open up the back fabric, all right? Now we need to align all the notches. So I notched the yoke part and I notched the back shirt fabric. Now we're aligning them, okay? So I'm aligning all my notches together, all right? So now in summary, the back shirt is in the middle of the 2 yokes, okay? Now I'll go ahead and sew it using 1/2 inch, okay? So you need to place them. The right side of the yoke, all right, will be facing the right side of the back shirt fabric. I don't know if that makes sense, all right, but just pay attention to what I'm doing. And the back shirt fabric is in the middle. Now you need to ensure that all your notches are at the same point, okay? So I'll go ahead and stitch them down using 1/2 inch, and when I'm done, this is how the back is going to look. Now I'll give it a thorough press because you need that side to relax well, okay? So this is how it's going to look when I'm done joining. Now I'll proceed to go ahead and join that, and we'll continue. Now let's look at the front. So the first thing we're doing to the front is to go ahead and shape the hem. All right, so I have marked it and I'll just trim it off also. All right, now I'll take off my pins so that we'll look at the button allowance. Okay, and like I told us, we need to indicate the wrong side of this fabric. If not, you're going to join the right side of one to the wrong side, and that will be very frustrating, and that's not what we want. Okay, now let's look at the front pattern, okay, so that we'll see how to fold the button allowance. Now the first thing we're folding is the 1/2 inch, okay? So I'll go ahead and fold the 1/2 inch first. All right, now after we're done folding the 1/2 inch, we'll go ahead and fold the second line, which is the 1 inch. Okay, so you first fold your 1/2 inch, then you fold the 1 inch. Remember that we have 3 lines there: 1 inch, 1 inch, and 1/2 inch, which makes it a total of 2.5 inches. All right, so I first folded the 1/2 inch, then I went ahead to fold the 1 inch. All right, so this is the way your shirt is going to look when you're done. This is the exact thing I'm going to be doing to the fabric. All right, now we'll go ahead and stitch on the last 1 inch line, okay, on this green line that you're seeing. That's where I'll be stitching on. So this is how I folded. I folded in the 1/2 inch first, and I folded the 1 inch. All right, so we are stitching on the second 1 inch line, and that's it. That's our button allowance, as simple as it is. All right, so this is the exact thing I'm going to be doing to the front fabric. All right, I'll do that. I'll give it a good press, okay, and I'll top stitch the 2 of them. So I'll do that and I'll show us. All right, so here's our sleeve. I have piped our 3.5 inches slit. Okay, so I piped it, but before I did that, I first joined our side, okay, the side seam. So I stitched on the 1 inch allowance that we left, okay, then I went ahead to pipe the slit. All right, I did the same thing on the other side. Now here's the cuff. So I simply turned the cuff. I stitched it using the 1/2 inch that we left. Now you will need to fold fold in ½ inch. You remember that we added 1 inch allowance to the length of the cuff. So you need to fold in ½ inch, okay, inwards, just like I did, and you leave the other ½ inch. So the method of attaching your cuff is the same method of attaching your collar. So when we get to the collar level, you will understand it better, but it's the same thing. Now we'll go ahead and stitch down, okay? But as you're stitching, remember that we added 1 inch allowance for pleating. So we will pleat 1 inch on the left and 1 inch on the right. Then I'll go ahead and join the cuff round, okay, and top stitch it. So I'll repeat the same thing on the other sleeve, and that's it. Now let's look at the front fabric, okay? So here is the front. Now I have gone ahead to top stitch our button allowance. I did the exact thing that I explained. So I folded it in ½ inch, 1 inch, and I stitched on the second 1 inch, all right? And I gave it a good press. Now in doing this, you may want to make use of your hemming gum first to iron it down before you top stitch. So I went ahead to cut out this pocket fabric, all right? So it's measuring 5 inches width by 5.75 inches in length, okay? So that's the pocket fabric. So from your neck width, I'll come down by 9 inches, okay, and I'll place the pocket there. So, and I'll just proceed to pin it. All right, so from the neck width, I came down by 9 inches and I placed my pocket. All right, so I'll pin that down and I'll go ahead and just stitch it round. So we're top stitching the pocket on the front. All right, now let's look at the joining process for the back. All right, so I'm done attaching our yoke. You can see how flat is looking because I pressed it well. So here's our yoke. All right, so you can see the midpoint. All right, now we will need to go ahead and join the shoulder. So I'll come in with the 2 front pieces and we will join them on the shoulder. Now you will need to place them right sides facing each other, okay? And you will do your joining on the wrong side. So I'll align them on the shoulder and I'll show us how to join it. So we're not doing our regular joining this time. What I will do is I'll first pick up a part of the yoke, okay, align it to the front, and I'll use the second yoke piece to flip it around, okay, and I'll stitch on it. So I'll do that, give it a good press, and I'll fix the cuff on the sleeve, all right, and we will continue. So here we have it. The sleeve is ready, okay. I fixed the cuff. You can see how neat it's looking, all right, and I gave it a good press. Okay, now let's look at the front. So I'm done joining the shoulder. I have attached the pocket. Okay, so I'll show us the inside of the yoke area so that you can see the beauty of the joining method. So you can see how neat the inside is looking because of the way we joined. All right, so I'll proceed to join the sleeve to this, okay, and we'll move over to the collar. Okay, now I have joined the sleeve, so it's still this normal joining process, nothing extra. So I have attached the sleeve to the body. Okay, now let's look at the neckline. So the first thing you need to do is to go ahead and measure around your neckline. Okay, so I'll just proceed to measure around my neckline. All right, now what we have is 19.5 inches, so that's the neck round. Now let's proceed to draft the bishop collar. So I have this pattern piece, okay. Now the neck round that we got as 19.5, we need to divide it into 2, and that will give us 9.75. So I'll make a mark on the 9.75, all right, and I will also come up a bit and repeat the same mark at 9.75. Okay, now I'll go ahead and connect it upwards, okay, and I'll highlight it as well. Then we'll proceed. Okay, now we need to find the midpoint of this. So to do that is simple. Place your tape, okay, to rest on the 9.75 and you fold it into two. All right, and at that point I will make a mark. All right, now here is our midpoint. So no need pressing your calculator. Now at the open side, we'll need to come up by 1/2 inch. Okay, so this side is the closed side. Okay, so that's the side that is going to be on fold. Now these marks are very important. Okay, so from the open side of the sleeve, which is where I'm pointing, I'll come up by 1/2 inch. All right, now we need to connect the 1/2 inch at the open side to the midpoint. Okay, so you do that using a straight line. And here we have it. Now the height of the collar that I want is 1.25 inches. Okay, so you can maybe use 1.5 or 2 inches, is all your preference, but I want the height of the collar to be 1.25. So I'll go ahead and just make a mark on the 1.25. All right, and we'll proceed to connect it. All right, so here we have it. Our bishop collar is almost ready. All right, so we need to reshape the edge just a little, so you can come in from that angle by 0.25. all right, but I'm just reshaping it using my free hand. All right, so we'll go ahead and cut this out. All right, and here we have it. Now I'll proceed to transfer this pattern to my interfacing. Okay, I'll transfer to my interfacing and I'll cut exactly this on my interfacing. All right, and here we have it. So I have transferred it to the interfacing, and in this case I'm using hairstay. So I pin down the pattern. Now I'll proceed to take off the pins, okay, so that I can open up the interfacing. So here we have it. I have opened it up. All right, now I went ahead to cut out this piece of fabric. Okay, so I cut out 2 of it. Now you can make it as at least wider than the pattern. All right, now the first thing we're going to do is that I will proceed to iron down the interfacing on the fabric. Okay, so I'll just pick up one of the pieces that I cut out and I'll iron down the interfacing on it. Just ensure that it is centralized, okay, and you have at least 0.5 inch around the interfacing. Okay, so I'll go ahead and iron this down and we'll proceed. So here we have it. I have ironed it down and I trimmed the edges. Okay, I left 0.5. I also ironed down hairstay completely on the second piece of fabric. So here we have 2 pieces of fabric pinned together. Okay, on this one we have the bishop collar that we cut out exactly, but on the second piece we have the hairstay fully ironed on it. Now I'll go ahead and stitch the top part. Okay, I'll stitch away from the hairstay. Okay, so I'll stitch away from the hairstay and I'll iron down the lower part. All right, so I'll iron the lower part away, okay, from it, and here we have it. So you can see I ironed it, like I used my iron to fold in the 1/2 inch at the lower part. All right, so and we still have the second 1/2 inch left. Now this is exactly what I did on the cuff. Okay, so I'll proceed to stitch the top part. All right, so I'll stitch away from the hairstay. All right, so I'll just go ahead and stitch this straight. We're not making any curves now, so I'll stitch it straight from away from the hairstay, like I said, and I'll give it a good press. Okay, now here we have it. I have stitched. I don't know if you can see the stitch lines. All right, so I have stitched this away, so you can see it. I stitched straight just away from the hairstay. Now I'll go ahead and turn it. Remember, we have one side folded. Okay, the 0.5 that we have at the lower part, we have it folded using the iron. Now I'll go ahead and press this, and here we have it. I have pressed it. Now let's proceed to attach the collar to the shirt. So I'll come in with the shirt. You need to notch the midpoint of the shirt, okay? And you also need to notch the midpoint of the collar. So we're going to be attaching them at the midpoints first. So I am aligning the midpoint of the collar to the midpoint of the shirt, and I'll pin it down. Now I'll take it to the machine and I'll stitch it round. All right. So I'll stitch it round. And when I'm done, I will simply flip it this way. Now I'm stitching from the inside to the outside. You can do from the outside to the inside. It's the same thing. All right. But I like to do the final top stitching from the right side so that I can see the stitches as I'm sewing. All right. And here we have it. I'm done attaching the collar to the shirt. Okay, so I love this shirt, the shirt dress. I love it. I love the lines and I love the color, especially the neatness. Okay, the stitches are just great. All right, here we have it on the mannequin. It's a beautiful dress. I would like you guys to give this a try and let me know how yours came out. Okay, thank you for watching. If you've not subscribed, you can go ahead and subscribe and be a part of the family. All right, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.